They say Antarctica belongs to no one. But 7 nations have already planted flags there. 12 more are building bases. And behind closed doors, governments are drawing maps. Maps that don't officially exist. Maps for a future no one's supposed to talk about. So here's the real question. If it belongs to everyone, why is everyone racing to claim it? Hold that thought. Because what's happening in Antarctica right now isn't about science. It's about what's under the ice. And the ice is melting. Imagine the coldest place on Earth, a continent buried under ice 2 miles deep. No cities, no people, just white silence stretching forever. But beneath that ice, trillions of dollars in minerals, oil reserves that could rival the Middle East, and 70% of the world's fresh water, frozen, waiting, and nations are positioning themselves right now. But here's the twist. There's a treaty that says no one can touch it. No mining, no military, no fighting. It's been holding for over 60 years. So why are countries suddenly acting like it doesn't exist? Because the treaty has a flaw no one wanted to admit. And that flaw is about to break everything. Let's go back. A century ago, Antarctica wasn't a sanctuary. It was a race. Explorers pushed toward the South Pole. Not for knowledge, for glory. Britain, Norway, France, Argentina, Chile, all of them wanted it. They planted flags, drew borders, sliced the continent like a pie. But no one could actually live there. The cold kills in minutes. Storms erase everything. The sun vanishes for half the year. So these claims were just lines on paper, backed by nothing. And for decades, that didn't matter. Because no one could reach Antarctica anyway. Too far, too hostile, too deadly. But then, technology changed. Ice-breaking ships, planes that could land on glaciers, bases that could survive winter. Suddenly, Antarctica wasn't impossible anymore. And that's when the fear started. Because if you can reach it, you can use it. And if you can use it, you can claim it. By the 1950s, the world was on edge, the Cold War. The US and Soviet Union competing everywhere. Nuclear weapons, space, influence. And both were looking south. Not for penguins, for strategy. A base at the bottom of the world could monitor entire hemispheres. Test weapons in secret. Become a foothold no one could challenge. Other nations saw this and panicked. Because if Antarctica became militarized, it would trigger a new arms race. One that could spiral into something worse. So in 1959, 12 countries made a deal. The Antarctic Treaty. No military, no nuclear tests, no fighting over territory. Antarctica would be neutral ground. A place for science and peace. It worked. For decades, it actually worked. But here's what they didn't do. They didn't erase the territorial claims. They just froze them. Countries agreed not to fight. But they never agreed to give up their claims. They postponed the argument. And now, that argument is thawing. Because the ice is melting. And what's underneath is starting to show. Let's talk about what's really down there. Minerals. Iron, copper, gold, platinum, rare earth elements for batteries and phones. Trillions of dollars. Banned from mining, for now. Oil and gas. Massive reserves. Enough to change global energy markets. Banned from extraction, for now. Freshwater. Antarctica holds 70% of the world's supply. Locked in ice. As water scarcity grows, that ice becomes more valuable than gold. And then there's land itself. Antarctica is the size of the US and Mexico combined. Right now it's frozen, but climate models say parts could be ice-free this century. And when that happens, the question changes. It's not who owns Antarctica, it's _1_. But the treaty was written for a frozen wasteland, a place no one could use, a place no one wanted to fight over. What happens when it's not frozen anymore? When the resources become real? When the land becomes livable? The treaty doesn't answer that. And that silence is dangerous. Because while the treaty says, quote, "to," it doesn't stop countries from preparing. And that's exactly what's happening right now. China has built 5 research stations, more than most treaty members. They're not just studying ice, they're surveying minerals, mapping the ocean floor, testing drilling technology. Russia has expanded its bases, reopened old Soviet stations, increased presence in areas it once claimed. The US is pouring money into Antarctic operations, not just for science, for presence. India, South Korea, Japan, all building infrastructure, all increasing their footprint. And the original claimants, Britain, Argentina, Chile, Norway, Australia, France, New Zealand, they never gave up. They're waiting for the treaty to expire, or waiting for someone else to break it first. Because here's the part no one says out loud. The treaty isn't permanent. It can be revised or abandoned. It's based on trust, and trust breaks when resources are on the table. So what happens next? 3 futures. First, cooperation holds. Countries renew the treaty, strengthen it. Antarctica stays protected, a global commons, untouched. It's the ideal outcome, but it requires every nation to choose the planet over profit. History says that's unlikely. Second, controlled competition. The treaty gets rewritten. Countries negotiate access. Antarctica gets divided through diplomacy, mining rights, territorial zones. Messy, but peaceful. But that requires rivals to agree. And right now, the world isn't agreeing on much. Third, the race begins. Someone breaks the treaty, starts mining in secret, builds a military outpost disguised as research, refuses to leave. And once one country breaks the rules, others follow. Not because they want to, because they have to. Because if they don't, they lose. And that's when Antarctica stops being neutral and becomes a battlefield. Not with guns, not at first, but with infrastructure, legal claims, economic pressure, the slow, quiet violence of nations securing what they think is theirs. And this isn't speculation. It's already starting. Russia blocked a proposal for the world's largest marine protected area in Antarctic waters. Why? Because it would limit fishing. And fishing means access. And access means control. China's been accused of overfishing Antarctic krill, tiny shrimp that hold up the entire ecosystem. Not for food, for profit. Argentina and Britain still dispute territory. The same fight that triggered a war in 1982. The Falklands weren't about islands. They were about oil. And the waters around Antarctica? They're next. So why does this matter? Because Antarctica is the last place we agreed not to fight over. The last place we said, this belongs to everyone, so it belongs to no one. If we can't protect that idea here, in the most remote place on Earth, where can we? What happens when the same pressure hits the Arctic, the deep ocean, space? The pattern is always the same. First, it's too hard to reach. Then, technology makes it possible. Then, someone finds something valuable. Then the race begins, and cooperation dies. Antarctica is the test, and we're failing it. Because we never really agreed Antarctica belongs to no one. We just agreed to wait, to let the ice freeze the question. But the ice is melting, and the question is rising to the surface. Do we share what's scarce, or do we fight for it? The Mongols fought over grass. Europe fought over gold. The Middle East fights over oil and water. And now the world is looking south, to the coldest, emptiest place on Earth, where the ice is 2 miles thick. But the ambition underneath, that runs deeper. We don't fight over what we have. We fight over what we're afraid of losing. And as resources tighten, water, land, minerals, that fear grows. Antarctica isn't just a continent. It's a mirror, showing us what we're willing to do when we think we're running out. And here's the terrifying part. We haven't even started running out yet. But we're already drawing maps, already building bases, already preparing for a fight we say will never happen, because we know. The ice won't last forever, and when it melts, the truce melts with it. So the question isn't whether Antarctica belongs to anyone. The question is, when the ice is gone, who's standing there with a flag? And what are they willing to do to keep it planted?